On the day of our engagement, the junior girl who had chased my boyfriend for 2 years tried to take her own life. My boyfriend left me behind and rushed to the hospital, and he didn't come back for the entire night. When my 20-second call was finally answered, his impatient voice came through the phone. "Selena, can you be a little more sensible?" Chapter 1. Elias and I came from families who had been friends for generations. We were neighbors and childhood sweethearts. We went to school together since we were little, and we even got into the same university. During the winter break of our freshman year, Elias confessed to me on New Year's Eve. He said he had finally waited for this day, that he begged me to be with him, and that he would treat me well for the rest of his life. Our friends in the circle all cheered and egged us on. I cried like a fool and finally told him that I had been waiting for this day too, then rushed into his arms and kissed him fiercely. Both of our families had long understood each other's intentions, so they were happy about our relationship. Things changed in our sophomore year. At the freshman welcome party, Elias, as an outstanding sophomore senior, went on stage to give a speech. Elias was the campus heartthrob, his looks went without saying. As soon as he stepped onto the stage, many girls began whispering to each other. I watched from the side, feeling a bit helpless, and prepared to wait for him outside. I sat outside for a while when two boys approached me and asked for my contact information. Coincidentally, Elias was the campus heartthrob, and I was the campus belle. I was still quite confident in my looks. "She has a boyfriend." Elias's voice came from behind me. The two boys' faces immediately turned red, and they apologized to us repeatedly before leaving. Elias didn't look happy. I smiled and hooked my arm around his. "All right. What should we eat tonight?" "My treat." Elias pinched my chin. "How about I hide you away? The kind where I lock you at home and don't let you go out?" "Imprisonment? No thanks. That's too intense." Elias laughed at my teasing. Then, as if declaring his claim, he planted a hard kiss on my face. I pushed him away, and just then I saw a girl behind him. The girl stared at us in shock, holding a note in her hand. She seemed frightened by us and looked especially at a loss. Elias followed my gaze, ignored her, and pulled my hand as we left. I saw that girl again during the student union recruitment. The reason I remembered her was because someone said she looked a bit like me. That's right, Elias was the one who said it. After he pulled me away that day, he even looked back once and said, "That girl looks a bit like you, but she's not as pretty as you." At the recruitment event, my roommate and best friend also said that the short-haired girl's eyes looked a bit like mine, and she even had a tear mole at the corner of her right eye. As she said this, she shook her head and sighed, saying girls with tear moles often have unlucky love lives, and she didn't know whether it was true. After saying that, she looked at me again and overturned her previous statement, saying that seeing me proved the saying wasn't true. Chapter 2. In the second semester of our junior year, Elias insisted on holding a birthday party, because I had been busy preparing for the postgraduate entrance exams before. I rarely attended any events. This time Elias specially invited old classmates from the same city so that I could relax. But on the day of the birthday party, Elias brought someone. My best friend and I exchanged a glance. We both recognized her. This was the girl they said had eyes like mine. Elias introduced her as his direct junior, named Julia. They met during a hiking activity. Elias liked outdoor sports, and Julia liked them too. After running into each other from time to time, they became familiar. My best friend raised her eyebrow unhappily. "White Lotus? What a nice name." Julia's face stiffened slightly, but she didn't say anything. Elias's expression, however, immediately darkened. He had always disliked my best friend, thinking she had no sense of boundaries. No one really enjoyed the meal. I didn't speak much. Elias kept putting food onto my plate, and several times even put ginger on it, something I disliked. Before, he would always carefully pick it out for me. Today it was obvious his mind was elsewhere. When he walked me back to the dorm, Elias asked if I was unhappy. I nodded directly and said he shouldn't have shown displeasure toward my best friend. The one lacking boundaries clearly wasn't her. Elias held my hand and said he hadn't actually invited Julia. Julia had overheard his phone call and found out, and even brought him a gift. He couldn't refuse a young girl, and to return the favor, he brought her to the birthday party. I looked at Elias with a calm expression. He actually believed such a little trick. As he spoke, Elias took out a matching knot keychain and said this was the gift Julia gave him. She even wished the two of us eternal unity. Elias said he hadn't wanted to accept it, but after hearing that it was a blessing for the two of us, he kept it. Elias looked sincere and even promised to apologize to my best friend. He said as long as I wasn't angry, he would do anything. I didn't ask for much. I just wanted him to draw clear boundaries with Julia. The ones who should have boundaries were them. Even so, rumors still spread. First, there was a post on the campus forum saying Julia had interfered as a third party, and the people involved were Elias and me. Elias and I were a well-known model couple on campus, so the post caused a huge stir. Then people dug up that they used matching couple items. Elias's keychain and Julia's phone charm, two identical matching knots. Elias and I were childhood sweethearts. Almost everyone at school knew, so for a while, all public opinion pointed toward Julia. I glanced at the comments. There were all kinds of insults. My best friend looked at me seriously and told me not to take it lightly, and that the right thing to do was to crush that white lotus. I was speechless. This wasn't about whether I crushed her or not. It depended on Elias. From the moment this started, I remained silent and focused only on preparing for my exams. There were plenty of men and plenty of love, but youth only lasted a few years. I knew what mattered. Chapter 3. In the end, Julia was the one who came to me first. Her eyes were swollen from crying. She said her life and studies had been affected and begged me to help clarify things. She really hadn't done anything. I rubbed my temples irritably and told her I didn't have time for this. As I turned to leave, I called another childhood friend. He majored in computer science, and I asked him for a favor. He was fast. That very night, he traced the IP address of the anonymous post. I found Elias and told him this was all directed and acted by Julia alone. But Elias looked at me with complicated emotions. Selena, you investigated her? Shouldn't I? What are you planning to do? Call the police? Julia just likes me. She's a young girl who didn't think much, so she made a mistake. I froze. The Elias in front of me felt unfamiliar. Selena, this hasn't affected you anyway. Instead, she's the one who got hurt. Let's just let this go, okay? I stared at Elias for a long time, then finally smiled. Sure, if you think it can pass, then let it pass. Elias sighed in relief and stepped forward to hug me. I stepped back and avoided him. Elias, being weak doesn't mean being right. This is a matter of principles and character. It may pass for you, but it won't pass for me. Elias grew irritated. Then what do you want to do? I frowned. Handle it yourself. If you can't even handle something like this, then let's break up. Chapter 4. We had a Cold War for an entire semester, but I also heard that Elias and Julia had indeed drawn clear boundaries. Julia had rented a place off campus and rarely returned unless she had classes. As time passed, the matter gradually settled down, but something between Elias and me seemed to be slowly changing. The day I was admitted to graduate school, my mother called and asked me to go home. When I went downstairs, Elias was waiting for me. On the way home, I didn't speak. Elias drove, glancing at me from time to time. When we arrived, it turned out our families were planning our engagement. Elias had also taken the graduate school entrance exam this year, but he failed. His grades had always been better than mine. I didn't know if something had affected him, but now he hadn't even been admitted to graduate school. My parents comforted him, saying it was fine and he could try again next year. Elias's parents, however, kept holding my hand and saying graduate school wasn't urgent, but getting married was. After dinner, I sat alone in the yard, lost in thought. Elias draped a coat over my shoulders, saying the weather was cold and not to catch a cold. I turned to look at him. Do you really want to get engaged? Of course, Elias. We're not young anymore. We need to think about the consequences and take responsibility. Selena, from childhood until now, I've never thought about marrying anyone else. In this life, I only recognize you. The words sounded beautiful, yet he still disappointed me. On the day of the engagement, Elias received a phone call. He said Julia had cut her wrists and was being rescued at the hospital. I grabbed him and said the doctors could handle Julia, but my engagement couldn't happen without him. Elias stared at me for a moment and told me to be good. He would just go take a look and come back immediately if everything was fine. And just like that, Elias left me and the full room of guests behind. The scene looked exactly like the drama I loved most. I used to lie in Elias's arms and complain about the bride in that show, saying the one who wasn't loved was the real third party. Back then Elias would smile, kiss the corner of my eyes, and tell me in a husky voice to hurry and marry him. Only now did I realize that I wasn't the female lead. It took me nearly an hour to calm myself, although my heart still twisted in pain. I insisted on politely seeing off the guests and explaining that Elias had an important matter in his lab that would affect his future if missed. I didn't know whether they believed it. I certainly didn't. In the end, my best friend helped send both sets of parents home, while I sat alone in the empty banquet hall and finally let the tears fall. All the anger and irritability I had suppressed for so long finally erupted. Thinking back on everything between Elias and me, I laughed while crying and cried while laughing. That night, I drove alone to the mountain peak where Elias and I used to watch the sunrise. I called him again and again. Every call was rejected. I laughed at myself, counting from the day we were born. It had been 22 years, and each time he hung up on me, I erased 1 year of affection from my heart, until the 22nd call was finally answered. The sun broke free from the horizon and leapt above the mountain peak. It's already a complete mess here, Selena. Can't you be quiet and be more sensible? This was the first time Elias had spoken to me like this. Honestly, I was surprised and uncomfortable, but I adjusted my emotions and spoke. Elias, let's break up. Chapter 5. I have proposed breaking up twice. The first time was a warning. This time was a notice. I hung up before Elias could speak, then went home to pack my things and prepare to start a new life. Actually, I'm a fairly independent girl. When I was with Elias, I rarely relied on him for anything, so after leaving him, aside from the heartbreak, there wasn't much I had to get used to. In the morning, I woke up early as usual and had breakfast by myself. For lunch and dinner, I ate with my best friend. I threw all my energy into my studies. My grades ranked at the top, and my advisor praised me highly. My best friend would often regretfully knead my cheeks. Last month you still had chubby cheeks. How did they turn into a slim face in just 1 month? No matter how well I pretended during the day, I still felt sad at night. I often hid under the blanket and cried, usually crying myself to sleep. Elias came to see me several times, but I didn't meet him. He also sent messages every day, and I didn't reply to any of them. I wanted to block him so badly, but my finger would hover above the screen, unwilling. Later, he once stopped me in the cafeteria and said that the day Julia was discharged, he had made everything clear. He said the person he liked was me, and the wife he would marry in the future could only be me. I looked at Elias steadily and asked him what he would do if Julia threatened suicide again. Elias fell silent. I told him that what I had always wanted was never promises or guarantees, but that when I and another girl were trembling on opposite ends of a scale, he would choose me without hesitation. Elias moved his lips and then said in a low voice, "If she wants to die, I can't just ignore her." I sneered. Then if both of us wanted to die, who would you save? Of course you. To be honest, Elias answered decisively, and I believed that if I were also being rescued in a hospital, he would firmly choose me. Unfortunately, I stood up. Elias, my love and my husband shouldn't be won through threats of life. Perhaps Elias didn't know that the day he chose to leave on our engagement day, I had already fallen off the scale, battered and bruised. After that day, Elias and I completely broke up. He understood my temper and didn't pester me. Instead, he studied even harder for his second attempt at the exam, while I stayed busy with my own studies. I still didn't block him. Before, it was because I couldn't bear to. Now, it was because I had let go and felt it was unnecessary. Late autumn arrived. There was a path on campus lined with maple trees on both sides. Every year in this season, Elias used to hold my hand and walk slowly along the path. He said that after we got married, we would come every year, and later we would bring our children, and when we grew old, we would support each other and come again. But we never made it to that time. I sat alone under the maple trees. Late autumn always made people especially melancholic. In the evening, my best friend found me and said it was her birthday and asked me to go eat with her. Damn it, I had completely forgotten. Chapter 6. My best friend and I have known each other since childhood. She was also my uncle's neighbor. When I was in elementary school, my parents were often not at home, so they would send me to my uncle's house, and several kids would play together. My best friend had an older brother, the same age as my cousin. Back then, crime investigation dramas were popular. We often gathered together to watch them, and every time a case was solved, we would be filled with passion and vow to study law in the future. Later, on the day we reported to university as freshmen, my best friend and I reunited in the dormitory. Only then did I learn that my cousin was a top student in law, and her brother was too. Thinking back to childhood, I suddenly realized that my life didn't only have Elias. I also had friends and family, as well as the dreams and goals of my youth. Before I knew it, my best friend had brought me to the restaurant. I thought it would be just the two of us, but as soon as we entered, we were drawn by the cheering voices from a private room. I subconsciously turned my head, and my mind buzzed. The door of the private room was half open, and what I saw was Elias and Julia kissing. Chapter 7. Do they have any shame left? My best friend's anger surged. She grabbed a wine bottle from the nearby table and rushed forward. I quickly hugged her. Alicia, don't be impulsive. It wasn't that I was kind. We were law students. If we got a record for fighting, it would affect our future careers. But my best friend was straightforward and couldn't stand seeing me wronged. Our commotion alerted the people in the private room. Elias saw me at once and pushed Julia away in panic. Selena? He ran toward me, afraid the bottle would really hit him. I shouted, "Stay away." But my best friend exploded with anger. She raised the bottle at Elias. Cheating scumbag and shameless woman. Even if I get detained today, I'll vent this anger for Selena. Alicia, it's already over. It's not worth it for people like this. What do you mean people like this? Just as I finished speaking, Julia walked out of the private room. Her lips were still swollen, and she looked at me provocatively. Senior, that's a bit harsh. Elias and I are in a proper relationship. My best friend cursed angrily. Proper? You homewrecker, don't you know the dirty tricks you used? Anger flashed across Julia's face, but she quickly smiled again. Senior, you've never liked me. What? Do you want to hit me? Aren't you studying law? If you hit me, aren't you afraid I'll sue you? Shut up, I shouted, then looked at Elias. Why aren't you taking her away? Hearing my voice, Elias finally tried to pull Julia away, but Julia seemed determined to provoke my best friend. She shook off Elias's hand and pointed to her head with a mocking expression. Hit here, don't be shy. Senior, how can you not understand me? I heard you chased a senior for years, and he still didn't like you. TSK. How shameless. I originally wanted to calm things down, but seeing my best friend humiliated, I couldn't endure it. Bullshit. I cursed, grabbed the wine bottle from my best friend, and smashed it toward Julia before anyone could react. A dull thud sounded. Elias had stepped in front of Julia. The bottle hit his shoulder and my heart. Chapter 8. At that moment, I truly understood what it meant to be heartbroken. In the end, between the two of us, he still chose Julia. Julia froze in shock for a moment, then hurriedly told the people behind her to call the police. Elias pushed Julia away and shouted, "Let's see who dares call the police." Then he turned to me. Selena, don't be afraid. I won't let them call the police. He tried to take my hand, but I avoided him. I pointed the bottle at Julia. Bitch, I'm not afraid of you calling the police, but if you dare insult Alicia again, I swear I'll cripple you. Julia was frightened. She hadn't expected me to actually hit someone. My best friend was stunned and pulled my hand, now persuading me not to be impulsive. My anger didn't fade. At worst, I won't become a lawyer. I have hands and feet. I can support myself. Unlike some people who only know how to seduce men with dirty tricks, my best friend hugged me, touched, saying she could support me for life. After this, we didn't plan to eat here anymore. We were about to leave, but Elias seemed possessed. Ignoring Julia's sobbing, he grabbed my wrist and forced me to listen to his explanation. During the standoff, a large hand with defined knuckles grabbed Elias. Brother, it's time to let go. I froze and looked up at the man, only to hear my best friend shout, "Brother." Chapter 9. My best friend's older brother Noah had always been the perfect other people's child since childhood. Good at studying, good looking, good personality, and from a good family. After many years apart, he had grown from the sunny boy in my memories into a mature man. He pulled Elias's hand away and smiled at me. Big lawyer. Long time no see. I froze for a moment, then replied, Mr. Noah. Long time no see. That was the name we used when we played house as kids. I played the lawyer, and he was the client seeking help. He was 5 years older than me. I still remembered how he and my cousin would often make us cry and then sit beside us to watch the dramas we liked. For some reason, even though it was childish, they never got tired of it. Memories flooded back like a release dam. After so many years, he was still outstanding, while I was in a mess. Selena. Who is he? Elias sensed something was wrong instantly. As before, he was alert about every man around me. What does it have to do with you? Selena. Let's go. I didn't give Elias a chance to speak. I turned and pulled my best friend and Noah away. I thought the birthday dinner was ruined, but we ended up in Noah's car, at the new restaurant. After just a few words, my cousin got angry and rolled up his sleeves, ready to go settle accounts with Elias. I grabbed him with one hand and turned to Noah. Say something. What if he really goes to hit him? Noah calmly took a sip of water. Go ahead. If it goes to court, I'll defend him. In the end, although I stopped my cousin, he kept scolding me. That was true. Since childhood, he never thought Elias was a good guy. There were so many outstanding boys around me. He never understood why I chose Elias. As he spoke, my cousin suddenly looked at Noah and then at me. I didn't know what he was about to do. That look made me uneasy. Bro, can you just say what you want? Selena, if your eyesight is fine, why can't you see such a high-quality young man? He pointed at Noah. You just broke up. He's single. You two should just get together. Pfft. Cough, cough, cough. A mouthful of hot soup went down the wrong way, and Noah and my best friend both patted my back. Noah glared at my cousin. Can you be serious? I'm not serious. I'm doing this for your sake. You're almost 30 and still hanging around with me all day. I bet if you don't get a girlfriend soon, your mom will drag me off to be her daughter-in-law. Cough, cough, cough. I coughed even harder. My best friend's phone rang at the right moment, and she waved the screen at Noah. I thought a mother calling on her daughter's birthday would be a warm moment, but I was wrong. Before 5 sentences passed, the topic shifted to Noah. The call volume was loud. I heard her mother complaining that the neighbor's granddaughter was already 2 years old and adorable, but her own son only cared about work and no one knew when she would get a grandchild. Noah showed no expression and calmly continued eating, until finally, her mother asked in a low voice, Alicia, your brother doesn't really like Ryan, does he? Ryan was my cousin. Chapter 10. After that, everyone tacitly stopped mentioning Elias. The 4 of us reminisced about childhood stories, and the atmosphere was surprisingly pleasant, although I still felt sad from time to time. With family and friends around me, happiness outweighed it. After the meal, no one wanted the night to end. Noah and my cousin drove us back to school. On the way, they told us to study hard and said that once my best friend and I graduated, they would recruit us into their law firm. My best friend sighed and said she was a poor student, unlike me, who came from the same academic lineage as Noah. Only then did I remember that both my cousin and Noah were top students of my mentor, who still often mentioned their names. Both of them were excellent. Not long after graduation, they had already made a name for themselves in the industry. Recently, they had both become senior partners at their law firm, young and promising. Back in the dorm, after washing up and getting into bed, I received a message. Don't overthink. Go to sleep early. See you tomorrow. I froze. It was Noah's WeChat, but I had never added him as a friend. I looked up at my best friend who had just come out of the bathroom and remembered leaving my phone on the table when I went to the restroom during dinner. I immediately realized what had happened. Seeing me look at her, my best friend guiltily looked out the window. Wow, it's really dark outside. Alicia. I got off the bed and chased her. She begged for mercy. Selena, I'm just worried about my brother. You heard my mom on the phone. Now she's attacking both of us siblings. Please. Selena, think of it as helping your poor best friend. Seeing me glare at her, she smiled ingratiatingly. Selena, I really think our cousin has a point. Don't you think you and my brother are a perfect match? She sat beside me and started listing reasons why Noah and I matched. We were both good-looking, had the same major, and could be considered childhood friends. As she spoke, her mood suddenly turned gloomy. I asked what was wrong. She said she had recently seen Elias walking with Julia several times. She was afraid it would affect my mood, so she hadn't dared to tell me. She thought it was nothing. But today we witnessed something even more shocking live. She blamed herself, saying she should have told me earlier, and that she shouldn't have taken me to that restaurant tonight. In the end, she cried and hugged me, saying I was so good. How could Elias and Julia treat me like this? We hugged each other, and for the first time, I cried loudly as if releasing everything. Yes, how could they? Chapter 11. The next day, when I went to see my mentor, my eyes were swollen like goldfish. I thought no outsiders would be there, so I didn't care about my appearance. But the moment I pushed open the office door, I wanted to disappear because not only was my mentor there, Noah was there too. Only then did I remember he had said see you tomorrow. But I had forgotten while chatting with my best friend. Could there be anything more embarrassing? Perfect timing. Selena is here. Noah, didn't you say you were short-handed? Let Selena be your assistant. I froze before my brain caught up. Noah smiled and nodded. I would love that. I just don't know if lawyer Selena would be willing to condescend. It turned out the firm had too many cases recently, and some were difficult. Noah had come to ask my mentor for suitable junior students to recruit, and I, as my mentor's proud new student, was the obvious candidate. Noah moved quickly and delivered a large stack of materials that afternoon. Since I still had to complete school procedures before joining the firm, I could familiarize myself with them first. He seemed to have just come from the firm and hadn't changed clothes. Dark blue shirt, black trousers, and gold-rimmed glasses, different from his casual outfit the night before and from his semi-formal style that morning. For some reason, looking at him like this, the phrase refined scoundrel suddenly popped into my mind. My heart skipped a beat. How could this man switch styles so seamlessly? I stood not far away, watching him smile as he sent away 2 female students asking for his contact. His tone was gentle, but his attitude distant. His rejection was simple. He said he already had a girlfriend and would get married soon. A thought crossed my mind. You see, when someone truly wants to refuse, they won't give others any chance to get close. When no one else was around, I walked over with a smile. Mr. Noah is as charming as ever. He tapped my forehead lightly and handed me the materials. There's a lot. Take a look first. Ask me anytime if you don't understand. He was busy and hurried to leave after delivering them. But just as he turned to go, he stopped and said, I'm online 24 hours. I smiled. Then be prepared. I might call at midnight. I'd be delighted. That phrase again. I watched him leave until he disappeared from sight before turning back to go upstairs. Chapter 12. The moment I turned around, I saw Elias standing there with a dark expression. The smile faded from my face. I didn't speak, didn't greet him, and walked past him holding a large stack of books. Selena, can we talk? I've already said everything that needed to be said. There's nothing to talk about. I asked around. He's Noah, the campus heartthrob for consecutive years. Even after graduation, he's still a prominent figure at school. A flicker of alertness rose in my heart. What are you trying to do, Elias? I was the one who hit you yesterday. If you're angry, go report it. Don't make things difficult for my friend. You're protecting him? Elias sounded unwilling. Selena, we're the childhood sweethearts. So is he. I answered decisively. Elias froze in place, staring at me in disbelief. I smiled faintly and walked away with composure. Who said you can only have one childhood sweetheart? Selena, I never agreed to break up with you. Elias shouted after me. I didn't stop walking, but I replied. He's my direct senior. It sounded irrelevant, but I believed Elias understood. When he brought his so-called direct junior to disgust me, we hadn't even officially broken up. Back in the dorm, my best friend was standing by the window. When I entered, she said Elias was still downstairs. Looking almost pitiful, she asked what I had said to make the once proud campus heartthrob so dejected. I walked to the window and happened to meet Elias's eyes. I shook my head. He's just been stimulated by your brother. My brother? Elias had always been jealous. Looking into Noah's background had only added to his frustration. Noah was the campus heartthrob too. His looks were undeniable. But what stood out more were his academic achievements. He excelled in every field and even shone on the basketball court. For someone that outstanding, appearance was the least significant trait. Elias was a campus heartthrob as well, and he had performed well when he first enrolled. But after Julia appeared, his whole aura seemed to shift. Yesterday my best friend mentioned that a talented freshman had replaced Elias as the new campus heartthrob. Now Elias had failed his exam and lost his girlfriend. Even the group of girls who used to follow him had shifted their attention. Thinking of this, my best friend smacked her lips and said Julia seemed like a jinx. But who could you blame? The blisters on your feet are from the road you walked yourself. Ah. I was sitting absent-mindedly when my best friend suddenly screamed. Startled, I looked up as she shoved her phone in front of me. Isn't this Julia? The photo was blurry, but the figure was unmistakable. Yet my attention wasn't on Julia. It was on the man sitting opposite her. That was Noah? Chapter 13. For the next hour, my best friend interrogated Noah relentlessly and cursed Elias and Julia's ancestors in between. There was a very high mom content in her insults, practically non-stop swearing. When she finally got tired and hung up, I poured her a glass of water. I figured she must be thirsty. Before she could say anything, she suddenly stood up to drag me outside. It's almost dark. Where are we going? To find my brother. Are you crazy? He's working overtime. He's busy with serious matters. My best friend finally calmed down. I sighed softly and pulled her back to sit down, telling her Noah wasn't Elias and wouldn't do anything inappropriate. Besides, Noah had already explained Julia was a client of another lawyer at the firm. He barely remembered her, and when she greeted him at the entrance, he just stopped out of reflex. He didn't expect that brief moment would be photographed. Under my persuasion, my best friend finally stopped pestering Noah. At 1:30 a.m., I received a message from Noah asking if I was asleep. I usually stayed up late, so I replied instantly. The next second, his call came in. I hid under the blanket and spoke softly. Noah lowered his voice too. I couldn't stop laughing and told him he could speak normally. He chuckled and explained what happened with Julia that day. He said he truly didn't know her and had just instinctively stopped when she called him. He hadn't expected someone to snap a photo. I felt conflicted and moved. In similar situations, Elias would only say I was overthinking. I wanted to tell Noah he didn't need to explain. After all, I had no standing to question him. In the end, Noah broke the silence. By the way, I'm going back to school tomorrow morning. What do you want for breakfast? The topic shift was awkward, but I was touched that he sensed my discomfort. Compared to Elias, he had never considered my feelings so carefully. Elias always thought I was independent and strong, but that wasn't an excuse to neglect me. I thought the matter would end there. But from that day on, Noah began appearing frequently downstairs at my dorm. Once or twice could be coincidence, but every few days felt deliberate. He always had an excuse to bring something for his sister, which led to dinners together, and I witnessed my best friend's creative excuses to leave us alone. I realized Noah liked me. I had seen how he rejected other girls. I even saw him coldly shut down Julia when she tried to approach him. That's why I understood the difference. Once, when Noah was walking me back to school, Julia spotted us from afar. Noah. What a coincidence. Noah's smiling face turned cold instantly. Are we close? Julia froze, her face turning pale. She tried to explain, but Noah interrupted her. At the firm, you can call me Lawyer Noah. Outside, we're not acquainted. There's no need to greet me deliberately. After that, Noah grabbed my wrist and walked away. Chapter 14. On the way back, neither of us spoke. His hand held my wrist, warm and firm. I thought about what he had said to Julia and couldn't help but laugh. Noah was truly outstanding. If Elias hadn't occupied so many years of my life, I would have fallen for him. Actually, hadn't I already? My wounds hadn't healed yet. Someone like me wasn't ready to start another relationship. Perhaps sensing my thoughts, Noah never made his feelings explicit and never put me in a difficult position. He simply stayed quietly by my side, My best friend was right about one thing: we had many similarities and never ran out of topics. Even someone like me, who always relied on myself, had unknowingly begun to depend on him. A month later, the firm took on an important case. Noah and my cousin entered a period of intense overtime. I was originally his assistant, but because the case was confidential and I wasn't a formal employee yet, I wasn't allowed to participate. So we rarely saw each other during that time. No matter how busy he was, he always found time to message me. The messages were short, but thoughtful. Not only him, my best friend reported his schedule to me daily, even sending his location. Was this what it felt like to be liked and cared for by someone? Even when he was too busy to eat, he reminded me to eat on time instead of using work as an excuse to ignore me. And he would never seek comfort from someone else just because I was busy. Finally, the case made progress and they could relax. On the weekend, a movie I liked was released. I bought 4 tickets, but that morning Noah and my cousin suddenly had to travel for work and stood me up. In that moment, I felt disappointed. On the way to the airport, my cousin drove. My best friend sat in the passenger seat, and Noah and I sat in the back. He closed his eyes to rest, and I didn't want to disturb him. Suddenly, my hand felt warm. Noah was holding it. I looked at him. His eyes were still closed, but his grip tightened. We didn't speak until we reached the airport. Taking advantage of the crowd, he pulled me close. "Selena, when I come back, I have something to tell you." His gaze was too intense. My heart pounded, and I could only nod with a flushed face. "Come back soon." That night, my best friend and I watched the movie together, but neither of us was in high spirits. After the movie, she excitedly showed me Noah's social media post. He had posted a photo of a movie ticket with the caption, "Watching a movie in the cloud with my big lawyer." My cousin commented, "You clearly watched it with me but were thinking about my sister." I smiled. He was truly serious about liking someone. You can always tell the difference between half-hearted effort and wholehearted effort. Elias had plenty of energy to spend time with me, but he still divided his attention between others. Noah, on the other hand, was overwhelmed with work yet still did everything he could to make me happy. Chapter 15. Without realizing it, Noah and I grew closer and closer. A good love really nourishes a person. Thinking back to the days right after I broke up with Elias, I feel like a completely different person now. What makes me happiest today is that Noah said his schedule is about to end. He estimates he can return in 3 to 5 days, just in time for my birthday. I was on the phone with Noah on my way back to the dorm, but when I saw Elias standing downstairs, the smile on my face froze. "Selena, can we talk?" I ignored him and tried to walk past, but Elias grabbed me. "There's really nothing between Julia and me. That day you saw us, I was drunk. Her eyes always remind me of you. I was intoxicated. So Elias. Stop saying she looks like me. It disgusts me. Selena, don't treat me like this. I really know I was wrong. Selena, give me another chance. Let's start over." "Sure," I answered firmly. Surprise flashed across Elias's face as he stepped forward to hug me, but I dodged him. "Elias, if you can turn back time and make everything go back to before it happened, I'll forgive you." Perhaps my expression was too cold. Elias looked devastated. "Selena, you've fallen for Noah, haven't you?" Recently, rumors about Noah and me had spread around campus. Everyone believed we were together. Because of my past with Elias, people saw me through a filter and felt I had finally found happiness. All I received were blessings. I didn't deliberately clarify anything. Seeing my silence, Elias became angry. He grabbed my wrist and demanded, "How am I worse than Noah?" I stared at him. "You're worse than him in every way." Elias froze, clearly not expecting my answer. "Selena, that's so heartless. Is it? Is it more heartless than what you did? Compared to flirting with someone before breaking up with me, leaving me alone at our engagement party, kissing someone passionately while claiming I'm the one in your heart, I think you're far more heartless." When I mentioned the engagement party, Elias closed his eyes in pain. Perhaps that was the thing he least wanted to face. I remembered how he once explained that Julia depended on him while I was independent. He said Julia made him feel admired and needed, while I didn't rely on him and was even stronger than him in many ways. I found it ridiculous. Could my ambition and hard work be a reason for his betrayal? I didn't want to continue the argument, so I turned to go upstairs. Elias grabbed me. Selena, is Noah really that good? Can he compare to our 20 years together? I didn't turn back but replied loudly, Elias, Noah really is that good. Have you ever thought that the reason I don't rely on or admire you is because you're too weak? Noah would never think that way, because he's confident and strong, and he deserves it. After saying that, I walked into the dorm, but when I picked up my phone, I suddenly realized the person on the other end had never hung up. I cautiously put the phone to my ear. You, Selena. I booked the earliest flight tomorrow morning. I want to see you right away. Chapter 16. Early the next morning, before my best friend woke up, I quietly got out of bed, calculating the time. Noah should be arriving soon. I took several deep breaths. The hand holding my makeup brush was trembling. Strange, it wasn't our first time meeting. So why was I so nervous? A message popped up. I'll arrive at the school in half an hour. I froze. How was he so fast? There was no time to finish my makeup. I hurriedly tidied up and rushed downstairs, only to run into Julia. A wave of irritation rose in my chest. I planned to keep my distance, but Julia called out to me, Selena, are you satisfied now? My life is a mess because of you. Elias doesn't want me, no matter how much I tried to be like you. Even when he was drunk, he could tell I wasn't you. He told me to stay away because you'd be sad if you saw. Selena, you don't even want him anymore, but he still only has you in his heart. He pushed me away just to beg for your forgiveness. Now you're the true love, so what am I? That's between you two. It has nothing to do with me. Pa. Julia spat and sneered. Selena, don't pretend to be noble. Everyone knows you rely on men for your sense of worth. Otherwise, why cling to Noah? You and I are the same. Her eyes were red, her emotions agitated. I remembered something Noah once told me, that Julia had consulted the firm about property issues related to an extramarital affair. If his judgment was correct, Julia had likely been deceived by a married man, transitioning from a relationship into being kept, then discovered by the wife and hurt in the process. That story had spread. She had struggled in that relationship and even compromised, earning some sympathy. But after interfering in my relationship with Elias, knowingly becoming the other woman, her reputation at school was ruined. She believed her current situation was my fault, so her hostility toward me deepened. I considered her unstable and decided to keep my distance. I checked the time. Noah was almost here. I turned to walk away, but hurried footsteps sounded behind me. I instinctively turned back, only catching a flash of movement before Julia's voice exploded beside me. Bitch! If you die, Elias won't leave me. I have nothing left but him, so go die. Selena! In that instant, I was pulled into an embrace. Clang, the fruit knife fell to the ground, stained with blood. My heart trembled. I pushed Noah away. Where are you hurt? There was a deep gash on his arm. Shocking to see. I cried uncontrollably, but he held me tightly, enduring the pain. You're safe. That's what matters. When the police took Julia away, her gaze toward me was almost mad. Why? Why do you have everything? Why does everyone protect you? Why? My eyes turned cold. Because I respect and value myself. Julia froze, then let out a chilling laugh. Even as she was pushed into the police car, she glared at me with hatred. Attempted assault with a knife wouldn't be enough for a heavy sentence, but it would leave a record and ruin her university life. I couldn't understand it. She had such a bright future, yet chose to destroy it herself. Chapter 17. Noah was injured because of me. So during his medical leave, I took care of him the entire time. We still hadn't made things official, but we both understood each other without words. On my birthday, we decided to have a small gathering at his house. My cousin and my best friend were there too. For some reason, I felt the atmosphere between my cousin and my best friend was a bit strange. My best friend used to like my cousin when Julia mocked her for chasing a senior for years without success. That senior was my cousin. I had asked my cousin several times before, and he always said he didn't feel that way. Relationships required mutual feelings, and my best friend eventually let go. But recently, I felt like my cousin had become clingy toward her. For example, Today I stood on the balcony and saw my cousin go to hug my best friend. She pushed him away, but he didn't get angry. Eventually, she gave in and was pulled into his arms. In love, Alicia is braver than you. Noah's voice sounded behind me. He stood behind me and gently wrapped his arms around me. He bent down, resting his chin against my neck, his breath brushing my ear. Selena, are you still not willing to be my girlfriend? It wasn't that I wasn't willing. He had just come back and gotten injured, and there hadn't been a chance to talk about this. I wanted to explain, but he continued. But it's okay. We can talk about dating after marriage. Let's just get married first. What? His arms tightened around me. I don't want to wait anymore. Love after marriage works too, right? Selena, if I wait any longer, I'm afraid you'll run away. I laughed softly and leaned into him. That isn't impossible. Hearing my answer, Noah lowered his lips. He kissed my neck softly again and again, his voice hoarse and low. Let me introduce myself. My name is Noah. I'm 28. With a clean background and no bad habits. I've never had a girlfriend since childhood. I've only had one white moonlight I've cherished for many years. My heart skipped a beat, my eyes growing moist. My name is Selena. I'm 23. I've had one boyfriend before, but I'm pure in body and heart. I want to marry the man behind me and spend the rest of my life with him for many, many years. Chapter 18. Elias, extra chapter. Selena still ended up with Noah. The day I learned the news, I went to see Selena once, but I didn't dare speak to her. From afar, I watched Noah walking beside her. The smile on her face was one I had never seen before. I had never truly liked Julia. I only enjoyed the ambiguity and the admiration of a woman in a weaker position. I knew I had hurt Selena. With her stubborn personality, she would never forgive me. Perhaps noticing something was wrong with me, my family arranged for me to go abroad to manage a branch office. During that year overseas, I thought of Selena every moment. If I hadn't been foolish, we might already have been married. 1 year later, I learned about Selena and Noah's wedding and returned home. I didn't receive an invitation, but I still went. At the reception, I left my gift without a name. It was a pair of wedding rings designed by Selena's favorite designer. She once said that when we got married, she wanted to wear those rings. I bought them, but no one wanted them anymore. Wearing a baseball cap, I sat in a corner and watched the bride toss the bouquet. Selena didn't throw it. Instead, she solemnly handed it to Alicia. The two best friends hugged and cried tears of joy. This was the girl I loved, always so outstanding and kind. When the bride and groom kissed, a dull pain spread through my chest, and I couldn't stay any longer. I secretly took a photo with my phone. My Selena, she looked so beautiful in a wedding dress. I thought back to our engagement day, how her radiant smile slowly turned into disappointment. She had given me a chance. I just didn't cherish it. For another woman, I destroyed the happiness that once belonged to me. When I got home, my father asked how long I would stay at the branch office. I said forever. Looking at the smiling face on my phone's lock screen, I made my choice. On the day I left, a doctor friend messaged me saying Julia had harmed herself again, to force me back to her side. She had grown increasingly extreme. I thought, if I hadn't wavered back then, she might have given up, and the ending for the three of us wouldn't have become this. The boarding announcement sounded as I stepped onto the plane. I looked back one last time. I had chosen wrong. I had already completely lost Selena.